to go over duty to report every year. And basically, it's just the expectation that if we find out or have knowledge of a student that's in any type of crisis situation or anything that we think is not safe for them in their home, that we have the duty to report, or anything that has happened, doesn't necessarily have to be in their home, but just in their life, that is just kind of questionable, that we have the duty to report that and let the people who we report to make the determination as to whether or not that's something to be of a serious concern. I always go to Renee, although you don't have to, but she does seem to have some knowledge about families and just about the reporting system itself. It has moved. It was on the Moodle site in the years past. Well, okay, so you make your call or your email submission, and then you have to put it into the Jessamine County system as well. And that part of recording for Jessamine County used to be in Moodle, and now it has been moved to the JCS Google site. If you haven't visited the JCS Google site yet, that's something Maggie could help you with if you need help. The link to that is on the Jessamine County Schools homepage. There's a link down on the left side to the JCS Google site, and then you just log in using your Google account information.
I just have a question. What is the reasoning behind reporting it to Jessamine County Schools also?
Because I believe it's for follow-up purposes.
Well, that and just accountability that it has been done. That if you hear something that it has been reported to your principal and that you did report. In case somebody comes back and says, well, I told Ms. Banta, and the child, something really bad happens to the child, and say, well, I told Ms. Banta, then you can prove, yeah, I did report it.
It's more of a record to protect us, saying that we have reported, yeah. And it doesn't ask for a lot of details.
When you call them, you can say it's anonymous, but then you still have to report to the school that you put it in.
Yeah, for the reason of covering.
That's why I was curious. Like, if you say it's anonymous.
So if you say it's anonymous, what you're basically doing is saying that you don't want that family or the people who you reported to know it was you. You're still putting it in the Jessamine County site to kind of to cover yourself in case that would ever come back on you that you didn't report.
Can I say something about that really quick? I know there has been, all of us have been burnt. If you've ever reported,
yeah, that's
probably
kind of why
been
I was
burnt.
asking this.
And by burnt, I mean that the social worker somehow leaks out that the school is involved, and it usually points directly back to the person who reported. But if you want follow-up and you report anonymously, you will not get follow-up. You have to have that number in order to call back a couple of days to see if the case was picked up. So a lot of people will say, well, I want follow-up, but I don't want to leave my name. My best advice is just be careful how you word things, because they write down exactly what you say, and there are some workers that will read back exactly what you say when talking to the family. So it very clearly, if you use words like my class, you know, little tips and tricks like that, just if you can avoid anything that, you know, sometimes it's inevitable. The kid goes home and said, yes, I told Ms. Hager, and then they come right back. And if that ever happens and the parent comes to you, I always just say, but wouldn't you rather I do that for all children than not? If there's nothing there to hide, cooperate with them, and it will be over, and it's, you know.
And we tell them, too, it's the law. It's the law. We have no choice.
Yeah.
You know, it is the law that if your child comes to school and tells me that, I have to report it whether I believe it or not.
Right. So, and I've been burned more than anybody probably, but it's just, and you get used to just saying, you know, I'm sorry that you're upset with me for doing that, but I did what I'm supposed to do. That's my duty to report, and I know you can understand what it would be like if we didn't have that law. And then when you say that to them, they really can't
Most of the time they crack at that point.
Yeah, they back
Thank
off.
you. I just was curious if it
Yeah,
was...
and I mean, you know, I guess the con to not putting it in the Jessamine, well, first of all, you're supposed to tell me. And so then we either have to report together or I have to report too on every single one of them. So then we can put it into the Jessamine County site together. The con to not putting it into the site would just be there would be no record. You know, there would not necessarily be any evidence of your report if ever there would be something that were to happen. And there would need to be record of that you had fulfilled your duty to report, I guess. Yeah.
One quick example, last year there was a report that came from the school. I do not know where it came from. I guess it was probably reported anonymously. And it would have been nice to have it on record because according to the parent, it was not followed up on for 4 months. I would have loved to be able to tell the director when I called social services to say, we have it recorded that we reported 4 months ago, and like I would have been loved to be able to have that leg to stand on. Unfortunately, I didn't, but I still did what I needed to do to call the director and that kind of thing. But I mean, it's also protecting our kids because not everybody does what they're supposed to do, even the people we're reporting to.
So, if you have questions, if you get in a sticky situation where you're not sure, see Renee, but we also always say, you know, if you're in doubt, report it. All right, moving on to safety. Couple of things about safety. First of all, I had put a little comment in my last email, I think, about making sure to log out of your computer every day. In the past few months, I've learned a little bit about how serious that is, based on some situations that have happened within the state. But if you leave your computer not logged out, so if your screen is up and it's not logged out, then anyone who has access to our building in the evening could get onto that computer and it's under your name. At that point, there's no evidence of who was on your computer, and there's no evidence that it wasn't you on your computer. So if you can kind of run through in your mind some scenarios of things that could occur, it could occur. So I just need everyone to be very, very careful about that and make sure that you're logging out of your computer, not just to be annoying, but for that reason.
I thought we had an automatic log out. Did they do away with that?
I don't know. I just know that DTO has, and Val have recommended that everyone's very careful about logging out.
There are some programs that will stop it from logging out, though. I mean, so it even now does a temporary one where it'll just temporary where you can put it, but there are some programs, if you leave them open, that will stop it. Like Notebook, a lot of times the smartboard will stop it from logging out.
Yeah. I would just be safe right now and log out.
That means also not logging in the mornings for your subs. I know sometimes we do that so that our subs can use our computers, but every sub in the district is given a username and password and should be able to access.
Oh, they are?
Yes.
Well, but my sub today could not.
They couldn't log in.
I was here and he could not log in.
Well, if they can't, then email me and I'll email DTO.
Well,
What if you're not here though, and the sub can't log in?
I'm just
Like
saying.
some
Well,
also.
And he
you've
said
left
he's
like
not been able to log in.
I mean, it goes back to what Sarah said, where it's your risk, it's under your name.
I know this is annoying, and I wouldn't ask you if it wasn't important, but I would almost have backup sub-plans that don't require technology in case that were to happen. You know, yeah, that's
Sub-plans.
You could-
either skip the either we'll have to just like
Yeah,
clean
I mean,
and
I
not
don't know,
use
I don't
it
know.
because
Then
that's too
that's-
much to ask. I already spend hours.
then that's what I would do. I would not let someone else have your login information. We've had some real concerns.
What about student
And-
teachers? We don't have any way for them to get on. Is that not something that we
They
can
have
do?
logins as well. Oh, no, not student teachers. I'm thinking long-term subs. I'm sorry.
No, student teachers.
We could check into that. See what we could do about student teachers. I think that's worth asking about.
They got me, when I was a student teacher at Warner, they did get me one. They had to go through to get me
Yeah,
one. but
I'm
they
sure you
did.
can set it
Yeah,
up.
I think.
I think so too. Yeah. Remind me, or remind me.
Just email me.
Um,
Forward it.
I think if it doesn't work out in your grade level content area to just have a generic sub-plans available for a day that there was no login information, then I think I would do your sub-plans without technology. And I know that stinks. I mean, I don't have a better option, but
One thing that I do is I set like an emergency activities folder. I like if
Right,
we ever
that's more
don't
what I was
get
thinking about.
anything,
Yeah.
I'll just stick it in that folder and save it, and so it's stuff that kids already know.
yeah, I know you
Not
can't do
necessarily, like,
two
for
full
that
plans,
content
but just
area.
having
Yeah.
some backup things because
Something.
I just, like I said, if it wasn't important, and if it wasn't important for us, not just in the greater world, it's important for us that people don't have our login information and that we are logging out every day. So, you know, when you're not here, again, so let's forget the subs. Let's say that we trust all our subs and that's not an issue. You can't guarantee they're logging out of your computer at night. So it just all comes back to that safety and security. And I don't really know how else to tell you except it's really important that you do it. Okay, lockdown drill. So Heather and I met with, and I didn't put this in an email because again, I feel like I have like 5 things to tell you that are just yucky. So Heather and I met with Scott Harvey week before last just to kind of talk through our safety plans and situations with school shootings. We went to shooter training, active shooter training this summer, Josh and Renee and Heather and I, and your eyes become wide open to things that are only on the news before then, and it's role playing, and so literally Heather and I were hiding under desks, and I mean it's very, very scary. Heather was taken out at one point on a Heather was shot on a bus, yeah. I mean, it's real. It's real. I'm really hopeful that everyone who wants to can experience it at some point because it really does change your thinking and allows you to think through scenarios that you really don't want to, but maybe it would help if you did. And it really changed my thinking about a lot of things. So it was very overwhelming to think through all of that. So I thought the best thing to do would be to get Scott to come over. So he came over and talked through a few things with us. Probably mine and Heather's biggest alert at the training was kids in the hallway when we go into lockdown. And that was the one, out of all the things they taught us, that was the one thing that we didn't really feel like we had a great plan in place for. You know, they basically say they can't tell you not to open the door back up for a kid that's banging on the door, but when you open that door back up for a kid that's banging on the door, then all 25 other kids in your room and yourself are at risk. So Heather was emotionally disturbed that day. It was really, really a lot to think about being in that room and having to make that decision about your 8-year-old that's banging on the door in the hallway. I mean, it's bad. It's bad. I think it's the worst part of our job right now, honestly, is just thinking through things like that. So that was the one thing that we asked him for particular guidance about. And what he said, I still haven't totally processed, but I want to share it with you so that you can start processing it too, because at some point we're going to have to make a decision about it. What he told us was that the kids who are the safest statistically in these school shootings, which that's sad to even say those words together, but are the kids that got out of the building. So I'm going to tell you that I've told my own children, if you're in the hallway and you hear me say, we're going on lockdown and it's real, I want you to get out of the building. I want you to find the nearest door. You know where the doors are. Get out of the building. Now, Ellie's on the 5th grade hall. So now my thing is, if you hear Mommy come on the intercom and say, this is a lockdown room, I'm like getting chills just saying this. Hide. Find a place to hide. Do not bang on Miss Kern's door. She will not be able to open it. Do not put her in the position of banging on her door. Hide. You know where to go in this building. Find a place and hide. That's what he recommends. So, again, I haven't processed yet how I can tell someone else's child, run to the nearest door and get out of the building. I feel great about telling my kids that because they're comfortable here and I don't want them in this building, and I know that as the mom. He recommends telling them, run until you find someone's house, go, bang on the door. If no one answers the door, go to the next house, bang on the door. Find someone's house where you can hide. If you can't find a house close by, get behind a tree and hide. He told us that the kids that were the safest at Sandy Hook were the kids that were in people's homes. They were there, they eventually found them, and they got them back to their parents. So, something to think about. Again, I haven't completely processed yet. One thing that worked out really well, Myra and I were trying to figure out what we were going to do with the library kids in lockdown, and we did realize, oh my goodness, go to the stairwell and get out. So that was beautiful. The other thing he said was, tell your teachers that if they're on the bottom floor, start shuffling kids out the windows.
They only open
they do. Certain ones do. And that's another thing he said, check your windows. If your windows are accessible and you can get a little kid out your window, start getting them out your windows. If you're where Michelle Reck is and you're down by a door, get them out of the building, And so I think all I can confirm right now is that if we go into that situation, you're going to have to just use your gut. You know, and if you can figure out what to do it. You know, if you can figure out a way to get your kids out of the building. And I said, well, where do they take them? And he said, just walk. Just walk until you walk. And you can't walk anymore. Just get as far from here as you can. So, I don't know. I have really mixed feelings about, I said, you know, do I talk to our students, our first graders, about running out a door if they're stuck in the hallway? And he said, I don't know. He said, I can't advise you. But you better believe I think we should talk to our fourth graders about it. You know, I mean,
Is a lockdown only when they're in the building?
a lockdown would mean either they're in the building. I would say if they're out, we would lock in if they were outside. Yeah, and that was the other big thing he said was quit trying to be secretive about what's going on. You know, quit code blue. You know, no. If somebody's in your building and you're on lockdown, you need to make sure those kids know it's locked down and this is not pretend. You know, get on there and say, this is real, kids. You know, don't be scared, but find a safe place in the building. So I do think it's important that we teach them that banging on the door is not the answer, going door to door to door. He said that's making them...
Well, and you don't know who it is when you're on the other side.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. And it's...
Yeah.
They are going to
But you can look out your door and
I
pull
told
anybody
mine if they're in the hallway to go to the closest bathroom, go in the stall, lock the door, and stand on the toilet.
Yep, that was one of the exact examples. That's what I told Ellie.
I told the boys too. I was like, you guys know hiding spots around the school that I probably don't even know because you're here longer than any other kids. I mean, Rhett's already picked out a spot. If Rhett ever goes missing, you can find him up in that blue slide. He's already picked it out.
So anyway, I'm just going to leave you with that. I just think that everybody almost has to think about the age of your kids and the setup of your classroom and the location of your classroom in the building to think through what you would do. And then the more you can prepare your kids based on their developmental level and based on, you know, location in the building, the better. But he did recommend that we tell all of our kids, don't bang on doors because we can't open them. And then if somebody does, we'll just have to make the call. But they'll at least be prepared for the fact that no one may open the door.
So what are we going to do when we have a drill next time?
I'm going to say it's a drill.
Yeah, but I mean,
The same thing we always do.
Okay, same thing.
Yeah.
And
And last,
we're not going to tell kids
just run out the door.
no, right. And that's the big reason for making sure we say it's a drill or this is real.
Get out.
You know, get out.
You know, I
Or be
wonder
safe.
would it be feasible, like, with our older kids, probably not first, second, or third, but like fourth and fifth, if they were stuck in the hall, like, talk to them afterwards. What would you have done if this were real?
The district is really recommending right now that we do some, and I was telling Cindy this one day in the office, that we do some drills that are not planned and emailed about, and that we go as far as to walk up to Cindy and hand her a note that says, smoke is coming out of the cafeteria, what do you do? And then she has to, and they're doing these at the middle and high schools and some of the elementaries. The other day, Brookside did a drill where, and so I really want us to start doing some of this stuff yet. I'm just trying to figure out how to do drills. But at Brookside the other day, they did a drill where Mr. Osborne was standing at an exit and said, this exit's blocked. And so everybody had to turn around and go the other way. Yeah. So I feel like, you know, we're going to need to try to start role-playing some things like that. But we would never do anything where we would encourage them to get out of the building for a drill. Yeah. And that's the thing about talking to them. We've got to be very clear. If it's a drill, Ms. Crum says it's a drill, we would never leave the building. You know. So anyway, sorry, I know that's kind of yucky. So I'll just move right on to my next bit of yuckness. Yuckness number 3, dress code. I would rather talk to y'all for 2 hours about evaluation committee handbook than to talk to, or evaluation handbook than to talk to you about dress code. We have had a couple of people from the outside that have asked me about our dress code, and we've had some questions also just in regards to what's acceptable and what's not from some new staff members. So I'm just going to be really clear about this. Number 1, I think the 2 biggest things that we need to be careful of are how low cut things are and how short things are. So, Josh, they said, if your boobs show, it's too low. Cameras. Daniel, that's for you for later. And then the other thing is, if you bend over and someone can see your undies, it's too short. Otherwise, I think we're probably okay. And we have to kind of watch how tight things are, but I've not really ever seen that as a huge problem for us. But the other big thing, the big question that I always get is jeans, and I feel the same way Karen did about jeans. I could care less who wears jeans or when. I think the biggest issue is just that we look professional. And so I think as long as we do, Christina, you okay over there?
Tank top.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought about, and you know, that's something Michelle said earlier. It's not like it's not okay to wear a low-cut shirt. You just have to have a tank under it or something so that the kids can't. Gina has a good example from last year of a student that was having some issues with just staring at people's chest. And so we don't want to give them any more reason to just stare at our chest. So, all that to say, just need to be careful about things like that. If you're in question about something, you can ask me and I'll tell you. Ask your teammates first and see what they say. Okay. All right. So, do we have? Cindy tells Okay, so this is merged into a conversation up here about some of our 5th grade girls and their attire. So we're on it.
If you wear something that says naughty, I'm going to call your mom. I did that last year. I'll call yours too.
Myra.
Have naughty across
No,
your
wear
chest.
your naughty shirt.
Or across your hind end. Then I'm calling.
Joan. No, and you can't wear your naughty shirt either, Joan. No shaving heads. Okay, last kind of off color. Joan, she wants to shave half her head. No. All right. Custodial issues. Jim is trying really hard to stay on top of issues that might occur with custodians this year. Y'all can read between the lines. So, I would really, really like for you to let me know and of any concerns that you have about custodians so that I can pass those notes along to Jim. We've started an evaluation process. So just please be very forthcoming with things that you're concerned about. We found out last year at the end of the year about some things that were concerning, and at that point it's too late to do anything about it. I'm trying to just set that from the very beginning that we'll address things as they happen. So please let me know of anything custodian-wise. All right. Lockdowns, dress code, custodial issues.
Logging out.
Okay, logging out. Okay, last thing. Subs. As some of you have learned firsthand already, we are having a hard time with subs. And there's a shortage of subs anyway, but we're also having a hard time getting some of our positions to be filled. So we're having to move people around. So as soon as you know that you may need a sub, go ahead and get one, even if it means that you might need to cancel that sub, because if you wait till the last minute, Lori can affirm, odds are you may not get one. Fortunately, Lori has a student teacher who saved the day, shout out, but we need to make sure that especially, you know, our classrooms and specials classes are covered. So put them in as quick as you can so that we can try to get subs in the building. We're trying to look into a little bit why some things are happening with ASOP. I know I've talked to some of you about why like certain people are always called and other people are never called. We don't know if they've blocked our school or what, but we're looking into it. I've emailed Val to kind of try to get some answers as to how ASOP works and what we can do about it. So hopefully we'll know soon.
I thought there was a list that popped up of all the jobs that had to be done, and then people could go pick it.
No, it starts calling them.
It does call them?
And like when I go in, I can see, like Lori, I'll just use you for an example. So the other day, Lori texted me and said, I needed a sub for this morning, it still hasn't filled. Well, I could go into Lori's like I could log in and look at Lori's sub situation, and I could see everyone that it had called and whether it had not reached them, whether it had they had denied it, and it'll call somebody like 4 times, but it'll still move on and be trying, but then it'll go back and get this person and try them again, and then it'll keep going. But what we're noticing is that some of the people that we know are really good subs are never on those lists. So it's like they've never attempted to call them. And I didn't know, like for Lori's, maybe they didn't want PE. So maybe that would be why they only wanted classroom.
Like on my list, did they even look at my favorites?
They do your list first, but if you're, like I called Roger that day and he was like, I'm not subbing this week. So then that would knock him totally off,
There was one time I talked to Melinda and she was on my list and she said she never even got
Yes,
a phone call.
right.
From some random
Right.
person.
Yeah, and I don't know how that happens or why that happens, but it does happen.
At Certified Council last year, Val did a whole training for us to kind of explain how it worked a little bit. And if you're requesting, if your top 5 are all uncertified people, then it will not ever start with any of them. So you need to make sure that the person that the people that you have in your top 5, at least somewhere, you have a certified person who is qualified to do your job. Like for me, it's going to call somebody that's a special ed person first before they call just a random teacher, just a regular teacher.
And like I said, as I get some more answers, because that would make sense with a lot of times, wouldn't necessarily make sense for what Rachel's describing, but as I get some more information, I'll let you know. So it is a computer, so it has glitches, so we're trying to figure out if there's anything we can do about the glitches. Okay, down.
I'm sorry, can we get, like, here are good people for our building? These are good matches for our kids, for our programs. Some ideas. I mean, I have no idea.
Does anybody, could we compile a Google Doc about these are the greatest subs that you've had and put them in there?
Sure. Yep, we'll start on that. Okay, Heather has that written down. All right, we're going to have to move on or we're not going to be finished in time. Okay, for this mission, I'm going to skip down to number 5. For the mission next steps, on your table there should be a white single sheet piece of paper that has the mission statements typed up that we did with Jeff at staff retreat. So the bold words are the words that had a lot of dots, and so our next step is supposed to be to use those mission statements and as a vertical team write our next draft. So the vertical team that you worked with before would look at those statements and then write a new draft based on those statements. Okay? We're not meeting with Jeff again until our October faculty meeting. So I'm waiting to find out what the tasks are supposed to be on that September 28th day or whatever, because there's some work we're supposed to have to do that day. I'm hoping we'll have a little bit of time that day to meet in vertical teams so that we can finish this up then. So just take a minute to look at those between now and next couple weeks, and be thinking about the parts you personally like the best, and we'll kind of go from there. You can stick that in your
You're on the camera.
Yes. That's not good. In your mission and vision pocket, in your spiral bound plastic folder.
Do you have more copies of that? Somebody needs one.
Yep.
Somebody needs one.
Yep. Does anybody else need one of those? Other than the United Way rep? Somebody else need that?
Props to the folder creator.
Props to the folder creator. Put it on the shout out board.
We like it. We were talking about how good it is.
Alright, everybody needs a red folder.
These are all empty. We've already emptied ours.
I've got extras right here.
No, I can give her the last one.
Anybody? Red folder?
I need a red folder.
No, you can go actually. This is all I have left is evaluation. Alright. If you brought your green evaluation handbook and you would like to go through it as we go through the documents in your red folder, we're going to kind of go in order of the green manual. If you don't need to see it, that's okay too. We're going to start out with this page from the red folder that just says Evaluation Handbook, TPGES Training. And this is the one that's going to kind of guide us through the green evaluation handbook. Okay. All right, a lot of this is going to be review from last year, but I feel like we were all still trying to figure out what in the world this was at this point last year, so we're just going to do kind of a quick review and then kind of dive into what this year's going to look like. So, the purpose of this handbook starts out on pages 4 through 7. It's going to give you just general information about what you need to know, what you need to be able to do as far as TPGES. Okay? It also is going to talk through the purpose of the teacher evaluation system, and the main kind of general idea of that is just to improve teacher effectiveness, and then for mine to improve building effectiveness. So that's just a very quick summary of pages 4 through 7. If you wanted to look back at that for more detailed information, that's what's there. Page 8 describes the Certified Evaluation Committee and the role of the committee. Basically, a committee is chosen each year toward the end of the year that will work on updating the district evaluation plan for the coming year and make recommendations, talk about things that didn't work the year prior. This year, I was on that committee, and we did a lot of looking at what the state required for PGES and then what our district had done last year, and looking at how we could simplify things a little bit and make it a little more manageable. And I think we did a pretty good job with that. I feel so much better about it for this year. As I've told those of you who worked with me last year in PGES, I like it. I really like it as far as the evaluation component goes. The part that gets a little crazy to me is just all the other stuff. But as far as the evaluation document and what we're looking for and how we're observing and giving feedback, I really like that part. I like it a lot better than the old evaluation model. Again, it's just trying to kind of wrap your head around all that is PGES that to me becomes a bit overwhelming at times. So we're going to try really hard to streamline that this year and give you little chunks of information as you need them and keep you kind of up to speed on what's expected next, so that hopefully it will just feel better to everybody this year. The framework for teaching and the framework for other professionals, which Kathy, Myra, and Renee, you are our other professionals for this year. And it's just certain positions that fall under that category, and the 3 of them, their positions do. So it's very similar, but the only differences there are that we're not specifically looking at classroom environment, and then we're also looking at delivery of service, not just instruction. So if Renee didn't do classroom guidance, but she did have groups or met with teachers for behavior RTI, we could look at those things as part of her evaluation instead of just the instructional component. Got it? Okay. All right, page 12 is talking about required sources of evidence. And as we'll look at in a little while, part of PGES is they want to not just look at one point of information or one point of data in making a decision about the evaluation level. And so all of those things listed there are just pieces of information that go into deciding like a final overall score. So the PGP and self-reflection, which is kind of where we are right now, we're in that stage, and then observation, student voice. Other measures of student learning just means that we could look at your data, K-Prep data, classroom data, any other information you wanted to share that would be evidence of student learning. And then products of practice could be your lesson plans, anecdotal notes, PD notes, anything like that. And then there are other things that